Good evening everybody, welcome to the Planning, Conservation and Transport Committee meeting of the 9th of March 2015. Before we start, in case there is a fire alarm goes off, would you please make your way out to the front and make sure you've checked in with Helen so we know who's in and who's out. But we're not expecting anything, so hopefully it's just a warning. I do also have to make an announcement that the meeting is actually being filmed this evening. The filming is now a statutory right. People are entitled to film and take photographs of the meeting. However, as the chairman of the meeting, I do have discretion to terminate or suspend any of the activities if, in my opinion, continuing to do so would prejudice the effective operation of the meeting. So I hope that won't be necessary anyway, but I have to formally tell you. Thank you. Yes,
and as clerk of the meeting, I just need to make you aware that anything that is recorded is in draft form only, and it has to state that until the next meeting when it's adopted.
Thank you.
Okay.
Right. The first part of the meeting is given over to public question time to receive questions from the public, which is limited to 10 minutes, and councillors limited to 5 minutes on items not on the agenda. Although we'll make every attempt to give accurate answers to the questions, there may be some subjects we need to research, and we would ask for your name and address and we will get back to you. Are there any questions from members of the public not relating to items that are on the agenda? Lynn.
Hello, Lynn Forrester, 55 High Street. Just asking if the council is aware of what parking arrangements have been made for Meadow Park's open days, Friday and Saturday this week.
Right.
And if they haven't, if you're not aware of any, would it be possible for the council to ask for some bollards to go in the entrance to North Wall on the Bad Bend to make sure that cars don't park around there like they have done in the past, which is extremely dangerous? Yeah. And also if it's possible to have a couple of bays protected for people to be able to pull in to allow safe passing.
Okay. We'd like you to have them to contact Highways and see if they're prepared to do that.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from members of the public? No? Thank you. Any questions from councillors? Peter.
Right, Chair, thank you. Councillors may be aware of the significant disquiet by the public as well as disquiet by the High Street traders regarding the circumstances allied to the planning situation relating to 36 High Street. I will deal with this issue more directly by means of a motion that I intend to submit to full Town Council on Monday the 23rd of March. However, on Monday the 2nd of March, a number of planning applications appeared online with regard to this property to regularise the situation, only for them to mysteriously disappear at the latter end of the week. On making inquiry as to why, I was informed that the applications were invalid. I think Helen can verify this because I did have a discussion with her. My understanding also is that the agent acting on behalf of the applicants was not made aware of the situation at the time the applications were withdrawn. I would request that Cricklade Town Council formally write to Brian Taylor, Head of Development Control for the Northern Area Wiltshire Council at Chippenham, to ask him that in future no planning application appears online until they have been validated, in order to eliminate the confusion that this situation has caused. Thank you, Chair.
That's noted, Peter. Yeah. Right, apologies for absence. We've got two apologies, one from Councillor Denteith and one from Councillor Sibiak. Are there any declarations of interest or dispensations not previously recorded?
I'm particularly interested in the Meadow Park. One of their sister companies is a client, therefore I want to speak and I won't vote.
Okay.
I'm also a member of the SCOB as a Wiltshire councillor, but has no interest in that.
No, right. So it's noted. Are there any other dispensations or declarations of interest? No? Okay. So we come to item 3, the minutes of the last meeting, which was on the 16th of February 2015. You've all received a copy. Are you content with these assigned as a true record of the meeting? Yes. Okay. Okay, we come to planning applications received from Wiltshire Council. The procedure we usually adopt is to ask members of the public, we suspend standing orders, we ask members of the public if they wish to speak either for or against these applications. I limit the number of speakers to 3 in both directions in order that we don't spend an awful long time. I do ask people if they won't repeat what anyone has said before. So that's the procedure we adopt. Once we've heard from you, we then go back into committee, which means the members of the public aren't allowed to speak unless we ask them questions directly through the chair. Okay. I also need to point out that Councillor Colmer is not a member of this committee and therefore he can't vote on any of the applications, in case you wonder why he's not doing so. Right, planning applications received then. Item 4A is Blackberry Pond, Shelworth Road, Cricklade, a certificate of lawfulness for the retention of a caravan. There has been 2 written objections received from residents of Shelworth. Does anyone wish to speak against this application? Does anyone wish to speak for this application? No? Thank you. We'll go back into committee. And it's Russell, I think.
This application seeks to retain a caravan on the site of Blackberry Pond, which, along with other matters pertaining to the site, have been subject to several plan applications and an appeal hearing which upheld refusals. Subsequently, various matters have been subject of enforcement action. We have, in the past, objected to these applications as it was felt the site was not suitable for this type of business or the area in Shelworth, in fairly close proximity to residential properties. Despite our objections and refusals by Wiltshire Council, an appeal hearing where the inspector commented on the inappropriate urbanisation of the site matters have not been changed. Although until last year permission has never been given for any development at this site, a further application was made to replace an existing agricultural building and solar panels. Cricklade Town Council objected, but permission was granted by the Planning Committee at Wiltshire Council. The planning officers advised whether the application had to be considered as though none of the unpermitted development or outstanding enforcement action had taken place. The committee supported the planning officer and granted permission for a limited application. However, the decision notice issue is to approve that application specified that stated that no portable buildings used for storage, shelter, rest or refreshment shall be stationed on this site without prior approval of the local planning authority. It also stated at paragraph 8 of the notice that there is currently a caravan, septic tank, metal container and hard surface area. The applicant is reminded that these do not benefit from the planning permission and are not included as part of the planning application. An enforcement notice has been issued in relation to this. The current application seeks to obtain permission under the General Permitted Development Order to retain the caravan on the grounds that the use of land for a caravan on agricultural land for accommodation during a particular season of a person or persons employed in the farming is permitted under that legislation. Having looked at various schedules and the Caravan Sites Development Act 1960, to which the applicant refers, we cannot see that this was the intention of the relevant legislation, and it will effectively simply legislating the replacement of the caravan, which arrived at the site in 2009 and has never been accepted as either necessary to the business or for the accommodation purposes applicant has frequently stated in past applications, that all beds have been removed. Furthermore, the siting of a caravan, as detailed in Schedule 7 and 8 of the Act, specified mentions it would be required for a particular season is not intended to permit a permanent placement of this caravan. Recommendation, object for the reasons stated.
Thank you, Russell. Any comments from members?
Mr. Chair, we've been through all this before.
I know.
And they still haven't removed the caravan and the enforcement order, so I think for me the recommendation should be object.
Anyone else?
Certificate of lawfulness is normally applied for after a set period,
That's right.
and the set period is where no action has been taken. Action has been taken against the planning application, so therefore surely it doesn't apply.
Well, that's what I think, because they're trying to use a specific legislation to get themselves, in with it. But I just don't think it applies in this case.
I think with the recommendation, Chair.
Okay. Can we have a proposal proposal, please?
I propose we object.
Thank you. Seconder? Thank you, Bob. All those in favour? Thank you. That's item J. Item 4B, Stones Farm, Westmill Lane, Cricklade, 8-line planning application for 25 dwellings and associated works. There have been several written objections online relating to this application. Does anyone wish to speak against this application?
Yes, please.
Would you,
Mrs. Hibbard, 8 Westmill Lane.
Yeah.
The car will be coming out more or less dead opposite my house. I also have a farm. I rent the farm at the bottom of the lane, and I have stables down there with the young girls riding horses up. And I would find that awfully dangerous. It's dangerous enough now. They come round there like bats out of hell. And I think the road should not come out there at all. And they're going to pull down a decent cottage. It was only there, what, 20 years ago? To me it seems such a waste.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak against this application?
I agree with Sue, really, so I don't really
That's
want to
right.
say any more, but the only thing I did want to say is
Sorry, what was your name?
We actually live on Westmill Lane, and we weren't told about the meeting tonight. It was only because we bumped into Sue, so there could be quite a lot of other people that could have an opinion that don't know that this meeting is going on.
Can we add our voice to that? We're 12 Westmill Lane.
Right, okay.
That we're worried about the access as well and the
Yeah.
dangerous of the bend. And also, we only found out in the meeting tonight from Sue. We don't think it's properly been communicated to people on the road.
Sorry, what was your name?
Kate Bolton.
Next up to Wiltshire Council.
And anyone else?
Michael Bellstock, I live at 11 Westmill Lane. The same as comments to be made. It's a very bad corner.
Yeah.
My wife's partially disabled, and we feel we're going to be even more hand-in. She can't walk out at the moment anyway, and to put another road in the way,
Yeah.
it would be just too much.
I have to walk round to the left at the end of the lane and go down that way rather than go straight up because I can't see what's coming around the corner.
Right, okay, thank you. Thank you. Last one, yes.
Peter Hanson, 6 Reeds. I want to bring attention to the issue about the entrance into Reeds, that it's going to be for emergency vehicles only. How is this going to be controlled? Because unless it is controlled, it will be another exit for cars. And the original development was for, 15? It's now 24. Increased traffic. It's going to be increased traffic on the going out as well as our little bit in Reeds.
Thank you. Right, does anyone wish to speak for the application, in favour of the application? No? Thank you. Okay, we go back into committee now, thank you. Mark?
Yes, thank you, John. Perhaps I should sort of start by mentioning to these people that if they want to object, and then they need to contact Wiltshire Council, the decision we make this evening is not the conclusive final say on this. It's Wiltshire Council make the decision. So if somebody hasn't not turned up tonight because they didn't know the meeting's taking place, they haven't missed an opportunity to object if that's what they want to do. I know some people have objected already, but some of you might not have. So if you want to object, it's Wiltshire Council that you need to contact and do it online and object. So I think I just want to clarify that. Okay, this is quite a big application, so there's quite a lot of notes, I'm afraid, but I'm going to see how we get on. The site is an area of disused farm buildings of approximately 3/4 of a hectare, 1.9 acres, and the application is an outline one for approximately 25 dwellings, of which 8 would be affordable, together with the road access arrangements onto Westmill Lane. All other matters are reserved, which means that the precise number of dwellings, the site layout, the landscaping and the appearance will be the subject of future applications. Whilst the applicant has provided a package of documentation showing a layout of the new dwellings on the site and building materials that would be sympathetic with Cricklade, these can only be considered indicative. Although reference will be made to those issues, the emphasis of these remarks relates to the principle of development on this site and the proposed access arrangements. In January this year, Wiltshire Council approved the core strategy as a key development policy document for the period to 2026. In terms of housing numbers, it is necessary to look at the requirement for each community area. for the Royal Wharton Bassett and Cricklade community area, excluding Wharton Bassett town, the total number sought is 113. At the moment, it's not clear how this requirement will be split between Cricklade and the two large villages of Purton and Lynham. However, because of a perceived under-delivery in Cricklade in recent years, it may well be the case that we will need to provide more than the other two. When assessing sites for development, the key planning tool in the last local plan is the settlement or framework boundary, which is a line around the built-up area of the town, and this will remain in place under the core strategy, although there is currently a process of review and revision if necessary underway. The Stones Farm site is within the settlement boundary, although the fields immediately to the north are not. The new road access will entail stopping up the existing access from Westmill Lane to Stones Farmhouse and also the one to the 6 bungalows. All of these properties and the new development will be accessed from a new road access created immediately next to the Westmill Lane Spur Junction. The applicant states that a suggestion of a roundabout here was put to Wiltshire Council, but their preference, that's the preference of Wiltshire Council, was for a simple junction. As is usually the case, we were not party to those discussions. The transport statement provided uses an industry standard methodology to predict the additional number of vehicle movements caused by the development. In the morning rush hour, that's 8 to 9 AM, it predicts 14 movements, and in the evening rush hour, 5 PM to 6 PM, 17 movements, and that these will have no discernible impact on the surrounding road network. We note that the track access to the site from Reeds will become an emergency access, but we are not clear what this is for. However, it will also enable pedestrian access to the leisure centre, for example. In respect of the road access, I've put a photograph up there because with the applicant's documentation it wasn't very clear, and actually the photograph's still not very clear either, but the new access would come out immediately this side of the one that goes off to Westmill Lane on the photograph. As mentioned previously, the applicant has provided an indicative site layout which shows a mixture of 3 one-bed, 8 two-bed, 10 three-bed and 3 four-bed properties. The design and access statement also refers to the use of materials sympathetic to Cricklade and also the intention for there to be no properties greater than 2-storey. Off-street parking will be provided sufficient to comply with Wiltshire Council standards. The Cricklade Neighbourhood Plan Working Party recently carried out a round of public consultation specifically about housing issues, and when asked to rank 15 factors regarding the style, type and density of new homes in order of importance, the 4 that I've just mentioned were in the top 6. As a consequence, if this scheme does receive consent, we will be looking for all reserved matters applications to match these requirements. A number of residents have raised objections to the scheme, and the most frequently mentioned issue is the new road access to Westmill Lane. A site visit reveals that vegetation causes visibility to be not as clear as the plan drawing might suggest. We would therefore request that Wiltshire Council Highways engineers insist upon a safe solution being imposed. It is a known fact that foul water drainage system is at capacity in various parts of Cricklade, and so we request that confirmation is obtained from Thames Water that the connections to this site are deliverable in a realistic time frame, as any grant of permission without this would be premature. In summary, this application is for the development of a brownfield site within the settlement boundary and which has easy access to school, shop and leisure facilities. Grant of planning permission would enable Cricklade to achieve a significant proportion of its housing requirements for the next 10 years, and our recommendation is that we support this application. I also go on to say that if permission is granted, we would request that a Section 106 agreement be arranged for off-site open space contribution. We understand that negotiations are currently underway. We also note that the indicative site plan has a hammerhead road layout at the northern end, and that paragraph 3.5 of the design and access statement, entitled Opportunities and Constraints, lists as addressing one of the constraints, quote, to ensure that development takes place in a manner that does not fetter the future development of the land to the north of the site, unquote. For the avoidance of doubt, please note that if Cricklade Town Council does support this application, the support for development of the land to the north cannot be assumed.
Thank you, Mark. comments from councillors? Peter?
Okay, Chair, thank you. Firstly, I'm really concerned that the recommendation is to support an outline planning commission. Back 4 or 5, 6 years ago, outline planning permission was granted for the Carpenter's development. Yeah? And quite frankly, we got caught with our trousers down on that one, because a lot of things came along when they applied for full planning permission, and when we tried to object to them, yeah, all the planners would say is you should have dealt with that at the outline planning permission stage. So until there's absolute clarity in certain of the elements, I don't see how this council can actually support an application of this type. So I think you've got to bear that in mind. No doubt the principle of development on this site is acceptable. I don't think you can argue that principle, but it's the type of development and the issues surrounding access. Going back to 2003, the application was made on this site for 15 dwellings. Yeah? It was turned down simply on highways issues. We now have a development for 25 dwellings, yeah, which has a significant increase in density of the development, and in fact there's a 70% increase in the density. And I find that hard to come to terms with, you know, where Cricklade has got fairly open space between properties. So there's a significant increase in density. Obviously, with this, we're now going up to 25 houses from 15 houses, yeah, and that has a dramatic effect. That has a 70% increase on the traffic, yeah, and probably even more than that, because the amount of traffic generated today from 2003 is a factor. Okay, so that's another issue. Peter quite rightly raises the issue about the Reeds access. We need to understand how vehicle movements will be controlled. Is it just pedestrian access? What happens if there is an emergency? Who opens a gate whatsoever? So we need to understand that, and so do the residents of Reeds. There's obviously a requirement, if this development is to go ahead, we need to understand what the travel plan is for HGV traffic while the development is being undertaken. A couple of other things. We mentioned affordable housing. I'd like to understand what affordable means in the context of this development. So, I mean, I don't think we should approve this. I think we need to call this application into committee. Yeah? In that way, you will get an officer's report before the committee meeting, yeah, which will identify all the issues that have either been taken into consideration or those that have not been taken into consideration, which will then give us the opportunity at committee to get those missing issues addressed. So I can't vote on it, I can't make a proposal going on this committee, but I would ask this council not to support this application. Thank you, Chair.
Anyone, any comments they wish to add?
Well, Peter rightly said, the problem with outline planning commission is that they can change many of the things later.
Small site. I wouldn't disagree that we need more houses in Cricklade, but I don't think this site is the right site for quite so many houses, and so therefore for me it's I would like to object.
Anyone else any comments they wish to make? No? Anyone wish to make a proposal?
Proposal, Richard. So this, as it stands at this present moment,
Okay, thank you. Do you have a seconder for that? Chris and Bob. Okay, so the proposal is to object to this application on the grounds that we've already outlined. Can I just add into that we include something about pedestrian access as well at the highways, as this lady mentioned, because I think that could be quite an important factor. Okay, can we have a vote then that we object to this application?
Did Mark want to make any amendments?
No, did you want something?
No, or you raised the point about the garages, but that's not really that big material. So, yeah.
Okay, those in favour of objecting to the application? Thank you. Those in favour of supporting it? Okay, so that's object 4-3. Thank you. Okay, so we're objecting to that application. Right, anyone that's here for that application now, you are free to go. Item C on the agenda, which is Cricklade Leisure Centre, Stones Lane, Cricklade, which is extensions and alterations to the leisure centre, including a new car park, use games area and for 10 court. Does anyone wish to speak against this application? Does anyone wish to speak for this application?
Nick, I chair of the Leisure Centre. Oh, sorry. No, you carry on. Carry on. Sorry, Nick, I chair of the Leisure Centre. I'd like to strongly support the application.
Thank you.
Gary Walker, resident of Cricklade, employee at Cricklade Leisure Centre. Support this application. It's just helps make sure the long-term future of the centre that Cricklade District Community Association spent the last 8 years. Thank you. Support.
I've omitted to mention that there have been 2 written objections relating to the application. One is in connection with the car park, position of the car park. The other one concerns the end of Stones Lane, where it joins Barnes Road, which is actually outside the area of the planning application, so we can't actually take that into account. Anyone else wish to speak for this application? Mr. Gross.
Yeah, I've sat on this working party not as long as a lot of other people. I've sat on it about 1.5 years, but it's been going for about 3 years. A lot of work and a lot of effort has gone in producing the plan. I don't know if you've got the plan up there.
Yeah.
You have. It's not just a leisure centre. It's going to be a multi-use centre that offers healthcare, care for the elderly, attract more young people, a wide range of facilities. The police will be there, have a presence, and the people of Cricklade should welcome it. And I support it, along with all the Scott representatives, 100%. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go back into committee now. Russell, thank you.
These proposals have been subject to extensive public consultation over a number of years. They represent a major investment in the leisure centre. 2 objections have been received from neighbours. The first concerns the position of the car park. This will be extended and moved to the front of the building next to the tennis courts and will increase the parking area by 37 places. At present, parking is often difficult, particularly in peak times. This will move the parking area closer to the properties of Common Hill. Most of these are fairly long gardens, however, the area will be screened by existing hedges and trees. Concerns also expressed about the proximity of the car park to the children's play area and lack of any barriers. This matter can be looked at when replacement play area equipment is being taken forward by C&L. There is a history of surface water flooding at the rear of the centre. Remedial work has taken place quite recently in the ditch and culvert in Stones Lane. The flood risk assessment accompanying this application is quite positive that this is resolved, but we do consider that care should be taken so that none of the drainage pipes and culvert are damaged during the construction phase, and that regular monitoring and inspections are undertaken when the building is completed. The car park is being constructed with permeable paving which will aid drainage. It is anticipated that there will be an increase of 4 full-time and 2 part-time posts. The other objection relates to the footpath which cuts from Bath Road into Stones Lane and is used as a shortcut, and the resident concerned that the use will be more dangerous. This has been looked at before and is not recognised footpath by Wiltshire Council. They will not permit improvements. As this is outside the area and is not responsibility of the leisure centre, a valid objection to the plans. That said, it is a dangerous, muddy shortcut and has frequent use, and perhaps C&L could look at this if asked, and if we could take it forward again. On the whole, this looks like an excellent development and will attract lots more members and people to use the facility, which only can be good for Cricklade. and our recommendation is to support this project.
Thank you, Richard. Any comments they wish to make?
If it doesn't go ahead now, the plan application in, then there's a good chance that you might lose funding in the future. There's a big stack of people out there wanting Wiltshire's money to move campuses forward. And we're fortunate in that block of the first 7, so I would recommend we definitely support it.
Anyone else who wish to say, or can I have a proposal, please? Mark? Well, proposal support. Thank you. Seconded by Regan. All those in favour of supporting? Thank you, that's unanimous.
Can we be excused?
Yes, yes, thank you. Item 4D, 01316, 33 Stockton Close, Cricklade, a single-storey rear extension and conversion of garage to living accommodation. Mark. Oh, sorry, anyone wish to speak against this application? Does anyone wish to speak for this application? Thank you. Right.
Thank you, John. This application is to convert a garage and build a rear one-storey extension to provide facilities for a disabled person. The extension fills in an area behind the garage and will not impact on the neighbours or the street scene. Other properties on this development have already been converted. The garages in this way, so a precedent has been set. The plans show that 3 parking spaces will be available at the front of the property, which meets the current parking requirements, so we recommend support this application.
Any comments from the members?
Recommendation.
Thank you. By proposal, we go. Recommendation. Seconded. Russell. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 4E, St Sampson's Church of England Primary School, Barnford, Cricklade, extension to school entrance, incorporating new lobby and administration office, link canopy to provide covered walkway, including new steps. Does anyone wish to speak against this application? Does anyone wish to speak for this application? No? That's all over to you.
This application is a result of the merger of the infant school and the junior school last September. The proposal is to build a covered walkway between the 2 buildings. It will be open on one side and constructed against existing buildings. It will not be visible from any direction as it is adjacent to the middle playground. At the front of the building, the proposal is to bring forward the current reception area and front doors, which appear from the drawings to be a useful addition and use of space. The design and access statement did not clearly state how wheelchair users would use the new facility, although it suggests it conforms with current legislation, and our recommendation is to support.
Anyone any comments they wish to make?
Recommendation.
Thank you. By proposal, we go. Recommendation. Seconded by Bob. All those in favour? Thank you. Supported unanimously. Item 4F relates to Mega Park School, Old High Street, Cricklade, relocation of children's play equipment. There's been 2 written objections received to this application. Does anyone wish to speak against this application? Thank you.
My understanding is that this play equipment will be 4 metres high, which for primary school children sounds like ridiculously high and dangerous if someone were to fall that distance. That would be inappropriate in scale, I'd say.
Yeah, I think it's 3.6, if my memory serves me right.
It would still be quite a thump by the time they hit the ground.
Yeah. Thank you. Noted. Anyone else wish to speak against this one? Anyone wish to speak for the application? No, we'll go back into committee. Mark.
Thank you. The recent application for the construction of a new classroom block that was refused also incorporated a request for consent to relocate the children's play area, because that was where the new block was to be built. The photograph, which is the top one there under F, shows the current play area, which was constructed in 2010/11. This current application is one specifically restricted to just relocating the play equipment to the woodland area at the bottom of the site adjacent to the river. Some new items of equipment are planned there also. The planning, design and access statement that was filed does not give a reason for this proposed relocation of the play area that has only just been in place for a short time, and so members will have to draw their own conclusions. The arborist report states that the proposed relocation of the adventure play area to the north of the woodland area at the east of the site does not produce any significant problems with root protection areas. That may be true, but it fails to address the key issues here. The old school is an attractive listed building at the bottom of the high street, and the grounds are an essential feature with a combination of formal areas and the more natural areas of woodland with its mature trees. In recent years, the following planning consents have been granted. July 2012, removed willow, ash and other smaller trees. October 2013, fell 1 silver birch. January 2014, fell 1 silver birch and 2 ash. April 2014, fell 1 apple. In each case, health and safety was put forward as the justification for the works. Cricklade Town Council did not object to any of these applications, particularly in view of the risk to young children. Our concern now is that by relocating the play equipment into an area of woodland, it will be only a matter of time before we are faced with similar health and safety applications for tree removal. We have no objection in principle to the relocation of the play area, but we do have concerns about where it is proposed to relocate it to. This would seem to be what planning should be all about, i.e. looking forwards. Cricklade is not blessed with an overabundance of trees either in the town or immediately surrounding it, and we should take the necessary steps to sensitively manage those that we have. Recommendation to object on the grounds of non-compliance with core policies CP50, CP51, CP57 and CP58.
Thank you, Mark. Does anyone wish to make any comments?
I've noticed that every time they build a play area, oh dear, there's a tree there that might hurt the children and you have to cut it down. It seems being cynical that they deliberately put the play area where they can get rid of another tree and then moving around the grounds, cutting down trees which possibly have no need to be cut down.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Sue. Anyone wish to make any further comments? Mark, can I have a proposal?
Recommendation.
Thank you. The recommendation is we object to this application on the grounds stated. Seconded? Thank you, Barry. All those in favour of objecting? Thank you. Okay, the final planning application before us tonight is 4G, which is actually two. It's a full application under listed building consent application at 68 High Street, Cricklade, a single-storey rear extension and a loft extension. Does anyone wish to speak against this application? Does anyone wish to speak for this application? No, we'll go back into committee members, so over to you.
There are two applications here, as the property is a listed building and is within the conservation area. Property dates from the 17th and 18th century and is listed as a two-storey house. The owners wish to demolish and rebuild a more recent single-storey kitchen and bathroom extension at the rear, which cannot be seen from the street. They propose to move the bathroom upstairs and convert the loft space to 2 bedrooms, making it a 4-bedroom house. To enable them to convert the loft, they wish to build a number of dormer windows into the roof at both the front and the back of the property. There is an existing dormer window in the north-facing roof profile. The applicant correctly states that there are other dormer windows in the vicinity and the high street. We have objected to further dormer windows being constructed in other high street houses to retain the variety and mix of styles which gives the high street its character. All of these proposals have seemed perfectly reasonable apart from the front-facing dormers. It may be that in construction with the conservation officer, some of the layout can be agreed to avoid the alterations in the street scene. We therefore recommend that we support the application but draw the attention of the planning officer to our concerns of the front-facing dormers.
Thank you. Anyone, any observation at all?
How many bedrooms has it currently got, do you know?
Yes, 3.
Because it's going to go to 4 bedrooms and there's no parking there.
Yes, there is. It's along the road and through some double gates.
Right, okay, so they've got parking.
There's plenty of parking, because we checked that out. It's sort of beyond the cottage where G.
Yes, so they've got parking. Okay. It's not mentioned in the application. It concerns me because there's already big parking issues there. I think we should note to ensure that the adequate parking space is maintained.
Can we ask you not to speak, please, because it's quite
Sorry,
off-putting.
I totally missed what you said.
Well, if we're going to recommend it, I would go with that we should ensure adequate parking is maintained. There's parking issues in that area, so I think we should make sure, because there's another stop them saying that later on that they'll extend a bit more or do something else.
Build a house in the garden.
Yeah, or whatever. So with that in mind, then I would support the application.
Anyone else, any comments?
Yeah, I'm not keen on having dormers in the front, I must admit. I put that photograph up there just to remind people what it looks like. And obviously you can see all the adjacent properties have got dormers, but they're a lot lower, much lower than this one. So I'm not keen on that, but I don't feel that strongly. I do support the application in general of doing the works and modernisation and so forth. So I think what proposal is a fair one.
I think it depends whether the conservation
It does.
officer will allow them to have them in the back, which would seem the sensible.
Yes, I suspect they will, but not up front. That would be my sort of suggestion. But I'm reluctant to object to it on this ground.
Well, yes, that's what I thought as well. Overall, it would be an improvement in the houses in need of some renovation. Okay, can we have a recommendation, please?
My proposal would go with the support, as per the note, draw attention to the planning officer's concerns about front-facing dormers and consideration that adequate parking is maintained for a 4-bedroom house.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a seconder for that? I think we've got several. Take your pick. Okay, let's vote on that then. All those in favour of supporting the application with those provisos? Thank you. Formally request call-in of any applications. I've lost track of which ones we've objected to. Blackberry Pond. What do members feel about requesting a call-in? I think we should, because we've been to the wire with this one before.
Well, I'm happy to call it in, but what we must do is make sure that residents go to the meeting. You know, we've seen the planning people say, well, there's no one turn up, so they've got no objections.
Okay, thank you. So everybody happy we call that one in? Thank you. Stones Farm. We've objected to that one now. Do we do the same on that one?
I feel we should.
Any thoughts? Yeah?
I've got no problem with that.
Okay. Right. Okay, thank you. That's Stones Farm. Have you objected to any more? Was that it?
Meadow Park.
Oh, Meadow Park, yes. Oh dear. Well, what do we do about that one?
I think it's unnecessary to call in.
Well, I feel that as well. I think leave it to the planning officer to decide. There's enough information on file from the previous application. Anyone else any thoughts?
I think yeah, it's the same by me.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I attend the planning meeting more regularly in some of the committee, I think. Okay, thank you. That's concludes that item. Planning decisions received from Wiltshire Council. 14.10.6014 Charwood Lodge Cricklade, the erection of 7 employment buildings. We objected and Wiltshire Council refused. Interesting, that's the one where they've taken into account the core strategy and including an item in there regarding the impact of HGVs. It's the first time we've actually got the committee to acknowledge that fact, despite our repeated requests.
It was actually added.
It was added
at the committee meeting that they thought it was warranted that, so that's good.
That's good. 5 Priory Cricklade, workshop, garage and drop curb. We made no decision on that one because there was some confusion on the plans, and that's been refused. Mark,
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, obviously, I'm happy with the decision. I'm not very happy. I thought the applicant was going to withdraw,
so
obviously he didn't, which I'm not happy about because we would have made our objections now. I suspect. I mean, he was on the spot on the night, so yeah, I'm not going to be.
Sorry, I know a bit more about this, Chair. Is that the applicant took advice from his agent not to withdraw it because he was satisfied. According his agent has stressed to the applicant that he felt that the application and the way it was put forward was satisfactory. So he took advice from his agent, so, which is quite entitled to go now.
Right, 01678 advertising, SO Petroleum Garage at Kelkett, we supported, Wiltshire Council granted. 431 tree application, there's two here, 431, 432 for 14 Rectory Lane by Mrs Bendel, and the other one is the old vicarage, High Street, both supported and granted. 10th preschool, another tree application, we supported, Wiltshire Council granted. And then finally, this very old application from 2011 for land adjacent to Broadleys Farm, Cricklade, refurbishment, change of use of the land and buildings from light industrial HGV repair to converted barn for residential purposes and stables for personal use. Cricklade Town Council objected to that back in 2011. Wiltshire Council have now granted it. A copy of the conditions is attached to your minutes, and you'll see that there's many objections, including the fact that the stables can only be used for personal use and not as riding stables. So that's all noted. Right, yeah.
I mean, it's only a small point, but we're not going to get a section 106 payment on this. One was negotiated, but the rules changed in November, so we won't get one, unfortunately.
Thank you. Item 7, correspondence. Proposed temporary closure of the High Street for a communities fair on the 21st of June. That's for noting. There's then an item, a tree preservation order at 3 the Priory, Cricklade. Remember, we had an application to fell a walnut tree a couple of meetings ago, when we raised concerns that a walnut tree was about to be felled, with very little information regarding the state of the tree, etc., etc. They've now formally gone to considering a tree preservation order, and the owner of the tree has been notified and has an opportunity to appeal. We can, if we wish, make some comments in writing by the 30th of March. I don't know whether that's necessary in the light of the comments we made in the planning application. Have anyone any thoughts on that?
We're not doing that, I'll be back it up.
We could write a letter saying we note the application and we support.
Yeah, that'd probably be easier. Everyone happy with that? Yeah. Good. Item 7C, Wiltshire Council traffic orders on the C70. This is the one that we've been pressing for so long, and we finally managed to get it through Cat G, thanks to Paul. This is the introduction of a 40-mile speed limit from Ashton Keynes on the C70 through to the Common Hill and through Charworth itself, through the sort of built-up area of Charworth, and then increasing to a 50-mile-an-hour limit from the Gallons right the way through to the nasty junction at I forget the name of it, but round the back way to Swindon, because at the moment there's national street. No, not as far as that.
Not as far as that. Will you turn off for the...
Broadleys Junction.
Sorry?
Broadleys Junction.
No, the one up by Curtin.
Cross Lane.
Cross Lanes, thank you.
Oh,
you
yes.
said that, I remember it now. Yeah, so that's a jolly good effort that we managed to finally get that traffic order in place.
Because it crosses two area boards, and Malmesbury area board would not fund it, Ashton Keynes. So there was quite a battle to do that, and finally the Wiltshire Council outside the area board agreed to fund part of that. But it shows the difficulty where it crosses area board boundaries, where they weren't prepared to fund it.
Signage and decluttering, item 8. There's a report here from Helen regarding the removal of one sign for a school crossing sign on Malmesbury Road. That one there, which is now out of date, there hasn't been a lollipop lady there for 20 years now. And to alter the signage at the clock by actually lowering it to sort of lower height, so that it's not quite so detrimental to the clock and anybody wanting to take pictures, etc., etc. Anyone any thoughts on that?
I met with Helen and the Wiltshire Council officer last week. I think Helen's going to bring a full report back to the next meeting, are you not?
Yeah.
We've only just got the stuff today.
Yeah, I don't have enough time.
She agreed in principle all these things, and they're low cost, and that's important because there's a cost to implement. Taking the sign away can be taken away. The signs at the roundabout, one can be removed onto a lamp post, so it's only taking a breakdown, put it off, and the other is just the posts because the sign is in good condition. What it means is it will declutter the clock tower effectively, which is what council has asked for at a previous meeting.
Okay, thank you. Can we have a proposal on that? Will we support this recommendation? Thank you, Mr. Proposal seconded. All in favour? Thank you. Earmark reserve. Each committee is being asked to look at, following the council's internal auditor, to look at their earmark reserve cost codes and amalgamate where appropriate. There's only two that affects us. One is the neighbourhood plan, which is effectively will no longer have any money in once we get the bill from the Department of Communities to repay some of the grant. And the other is to add the balance from the town plans and close that earmark reserve account, which would put £1,400 back into the neighbourhood plan. So that's what we will be sitting on. The second one is to change the title of the town centre car park to car park maintenance, so all of the car parks the maintenance can come from one budget head. Are we in agreement with that, please? Yes. Thank you. All happy? Wiltshire Housing Site allocations DPD. You should all have had. Can I just close that? You should all have had a hard copy of one of these things sent to you. If you haven't had it, they had that the last one. The report is written by me. As you'll see, what we want to do is to ask you to delegate responsibility for following up the response on the consultation to the Neighbourhood Plan Working Party. Anyone, any thoughts on it? Okay, thank you. And we'll bring back a recommendation to the next meeting on what should be said. So we will have some input at the next meeting. Okay, thank you. I think I got ahead of myself on that one, kind of waving this about before it actually came out. Neighbourhood Plan Working Party, Mark, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, John. Yeah, as John just said, the Neighbourhood Plan Working Party recently published second consultation report, the document here, council has seen it. It's online for the public on the Town Council website, and there's hard copy in the front of it. There's a bit in the Chronicle telling people that it's now available for reading. It's quite interesting reading, I'd recommend if you have a read through. This is the results of the consultation that took place before Christmas, the questionnaire that was delivered around Cricklade. It's collating the responses and putting them into some sort of order. And in fact, I referred to that when I was giving my remarks earlier on regarding the Stones Farm application. So we're sort of taking some of the results and using them already, which is good. So the neighbourhood plan process continues. The notes of one of our recent meetings are enclosed with the agenda packs as well. And if people have any questions, I'll do my best, as always, to answer them.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions on that? No? Okay, noted. Item 12, liaison with outside bodies. Community Area Board, Highways and Transport Group meeting. The next meeting is not until May.
Chair, could you ask that we have something on the agenda for the next meeting, so if we want to put anything to Cat G, we consider it at the next meeting.
Okay, Helen. Operational Flood Working Group, I've got a meeting this week. Forgotten that, Richard. So I should be attending that. Hills Community Liaison, Mark, anything to say?
Well, I mean, we attend the Burton one, which is twice a year. They have one at Chapel Farm as well, and there's the next one's on the 14th of April. We tend not to go to those because Chapel Farm doesn't affect Cricklade very much. It's accessed on the A4 and 9, and it's effectively closed now to new tipping. So I don't propose to attend that meeting. If the council wants to
Waste and Minerals, Gloucestershire, Wiltshire. Nothing to report on that. Okay, item 13, date of next meeting is Monday the 30th of March. Thank you very much.
Thank you.